Hey y'all, welcome back to You Only Get One Chance, right? I know it has been a while. There's a lot of things that's happened. I was making progress and then backslid quite a bit. I was hospitalized in 2 different facilities this past month, I guess. And it's been a journey. So let's talk about it. As you can probably tell, I haven't really been taking really good care of myself. A lot of that has to do with trauma. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about how trauma can appear in like your everyday life. So, for example, my trauma is something that I deal with in everyday life. And it appears sometimes randomly out of nowhere, which you don't really understand. And then sometimes there's specific triggers. A lot of the time when you have these triggers, you tend to not realize them, maybe at first, and then there becomes this pattern. Well, some of my triggers happen to be overwhelming situations. So, for example, going to the grocery store, going to a restaurant, going to anywhere where there is so much input, sound, lights, people in general, even if they're not making that much noise, that is very triggering to me. It took me a while to realize that that was what was going on, and I had quite a few episodes in grocery stores, in retail stores, in restaurants, until I finally realized that there was a pattern. And honestly, the people around me are the ones that notice the pattern first, like before me. So I tend to now avoid those situations. I avoid going to the grocery store. I do pick up groceries. I avoid going to restaurants. I avoid going out. But I'll tell you, that makes it kind of lonely. I don't really go out with friends anymore. I don't have a lot of people around me. I live kind of secluded because it's on 40 acres. So these triggers that happen in everyday life are really hindering me from enjoying the things I used to enjoy. For example, I used to love going to the rodeo. The rodeo was something that I really enjoyed. I loved going to it, especially when I lived in Texas. We would go to the Houston Rodeo every year, multiple times. And then going to concerts, going out to eat. I'm a food lover, so I love to try different things and different foods. And now, those, of course, are the things I really struggle with. Triggers are not easy to identify sometimes. Sometimes you can be walking down the street or in a store or even sitting with your friends and talking or your family, and all of a sudden something triggers you and you can go into an episode. For people that have anxiety, those potentially look like panic attacks. For those that suffer from dissociation, obviously those are instances where you dissociate or you kind of what I call leave the building. Your mind kind of tends to shut off from the real world and go somewhere else. Depression, that looks like sometimes withdrawing from people. And it really is hard to live everyday life not knowing what all of your triggers are. There are a lot of times recently, and the reason I was hospitalized is I was tired of having these triggers and having these mental health problems that I just can't seem to control. The triggers were affecting my everyday life, every moment of my world, and it just got to be too much. My mantra in my mind, those intrusive thoughts, were I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. I've been battling and doing everything that I'm supposed to do, and I just am not getting to the place that I want to be. It is not easy to live with mental health disorders, and you get judged quite a bit. It also scares people sometimes, especially those that don't understand. But I wanted to get on and tell you guys that you have to keep fighting. Trust me, there have been times where I wanted to give up. The reason I was hospitalized. But my therapist said something to me this last week that I really resonated with me. And I'm hoping that it resonates with some of you that are struggling as well. Triggers suck. They're awful. You sometimes know them, you sometimes don't. And those triggers can affect your everyday life. But it's not an all or nothing, which is how I've lived my life for a very long time. But it's not all or nothing. Sometimes those triggers can happen and you only have 40% to give that day. But 40% is better than 0%. 60% is better than 0%. 5% is better than 0%. I myself have to learn that. It's not I have to make a conscious effort to remember that just because I'm being triggered, or just because my mental health isn't great a day, a week, a month, if I look at my life and I look at the things that I need to get done, for example, cleaning the kitchen or going to see friends or anything like that, if I only have 5% to give, I only have 5%. I still go to see my friends, right? But instead of staying there for hours, I'm only there for 30 minutes, only there for an hour. I contribute what I can contribute instead of going and saying, I'm going to stay home because I don't have 100% to give them. I do 2 dishes of all the dishes that are in my kitchen. And that's okay because I gave 2% out of the 100%, but I still gave something and it's still better than 0. So I'm really hoping that resonates with some of you as it did me. If not, no worries. But I really want you guys to know that we can't always avoid our triggers, but we can learn that it isn't our fault and that we can continue to live, continue to do things, and it's not all or nothing. Bye, guys.